Welcome to The Wave. We are Voices of Ecology, a movement powered by the European Union ERASMUS Plus program. Wave brings youth voices to the forefront, from real-life interviews with youth in the eco-village movement to exploring degrowth and youth perspectives on intergenerational fairness. We're a multi-host podcast where each episode is unique and is hosted by a different Wave participant. With a rotating format, a diversity of voices, perspectives, and passions, Wave brings them all to the mic. Join us as we dive into bold conversations, share inspiring stories, and explore how we can all live more sustainably.
Welcome back to the second part of the episode with Hayati on guerrilla gardening. We continue the conversation, diving even deeper on what it means to be a true guerrilla gardener. When talking to people around us and mentioning guerrilla gardening and explaining what it was, a lot of times, and you've also mentioned this at the beginning, people are worried about the repercussions, legal repercussions, but also, of the city. And also besides that, also like, how do you start? Where do you start? Because obviously you cannot just plant anything. If it's obviously I don't know a lot about plants, but some invasive species, if they they cannot be planted just anywhere. And so I guess my question is twofold: is what about the legal and the more let's say technical side of it, and then also where do you start if you want to start?
Great question. I think the legal side is slightly a gray area. The way I'm looking at it is that's a community space. And if what you're doing is not obstructing anyone's way, if it's not really creating any annoyances or disruption in the space, then I think it's fair game. If the result that you put in is a positivity that you bring to the area, then I would say there's nothing that you should worry about. However, I did have to think a lot around the logistics of making sure that it's not disruptive, making sure that it's not going to create annoyance to the way people are working. So obviously, for example, I put it by the planter that I put is at the station. So I didn't put it by the gates. It's in a far corner. There are some kind of back areas of the station around where I put the planter, and there was like this big gate. So I just wanted to make sure that if they opened the gate, the planter wasn't in the way. So the other thing was the materials that I use. So I just wanted to make sure that it's not going to break down into pieces really quickly, so that it's going to be council's jobs to clear it up. So you have to think about all these things in a way that will make it not a nuisance to public life, basically. So as long as you do that, I don't think you're going to have legal issues. In terms of what kind of materials you choose, I think, again, you need to think about sustainable and long-term products, materials that you use. Because again, if one project that I did was in a tree pit, so it's like this empty space underneath a tree, and the material that I used was slightly flimsier than the one that I use at Walthamstow Central Station because it was a smaller space. And what I noticed the week after was there are kids that are playing with a ball, and they keep knocking it over. So after several weeks, basically, it got damaged, and you can't be. It's your fault if you've done something and the society is using the space around it and it gets damaged. You can't blame other people. It means that you didn't use the right materials. I think you need to, as the kind of guerrilla gardener or person doing that, you need to be mindful. Same with the choices of the plants that you're using. If it's a high traffic area and if you know that there'll be kids playing with balls and balls will be crushing the plants, then you need a lot tougher plants in that space. If it's a secluded place, then you can have a bit more like fragile plants. But basically, as long as you work with the environment instead of against it, I think you get away with it. And the types of plants I always try to use is really drought tolerant plants that don't need too much care, because again, if it's guerrilla gardening, it's probably going to be in a space that's slightly out of your way. So all the projects that I've done are on my way to either work, to the station, to the gym. So I have easy access to the spaces. So if something like the example I gave, that's under the tree pit, the tree pit guerrilla gardening that I've created, I had to go and fix it. I redid it because the materials I used initially wasn't good. If I had done it in a different neighborhood and I only kind of saw it once every 3 months, then I wouldn't be able to actually care for that space. I think when you do it, you basically take responsibility for it. And if you take responsibility for the work that you've done, then I think there can be not too many ramifications of it. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
No, it does, because it also makes, it also makes sense to do the guerrilla gardening close to you, right? So the aspect of responsibility that you said, I do think is really important, especially if it's you changing the community space for the better. That makes a lot of sense.
You honestly don't need too much, and again, you can pick up space that's really close to you, a small space. You pick whatever kind of plants that you like and you think will survive. So on my street, again, I haven't done this, but on the kind of upper side of the street, there are again these trees with pits under them, and they have created, so my neighbors have created these blocks to make space for more plants to be planted under the trees. And they planted bulbs, they planted lavender, salvia, lots of different things. And throughout the seasons, basically, they just pop up, and it just brings so much joy to the whole street. So I think there's a lot like you can do without too much effort. And if it's close to you, you can take care of it. And it really brings joy to people, I think.
Yeah. Just curious, do you have a favorite tree or a favorite plant / flower?
That's a very good question.
A very difficult question for a plant lover, I believe.
My favorite plant ever is wisteria. So I always dreamt before I moved to this house to have a house, the front of the house with a wisteria.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So the moment literally we moved in, I think it was April, maybe March, April. Like that was the first thing I did. So bought a wisteria, planted it. It took 3 years for it to flower. So it was like every year I was like, oh, when is it going to flower? But when it started flowering, the first year there were like maybe 11 flowers on it. But still I was so mesmerized with it. It's just the smell, the color. I love wisteria. I'm not sure if you can use it for guerrilla gardening, probably not. Also in the UK, it's kind of great. Whenever I put something around wisteria on my social media, there are lots of Americans commenting about it being really invasive in the US. So yeah, they don't like it over there. But here, I think it's fine. Yeah, I've never feel like it's invasive. It does grow quite quickly. Sometimes it doesn't flower. Lots of people complain that it doesn't flower. But mine finally does, so I'm very happy. So I'm looking forward to, usually it flowers around April. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that bloom.
Amazing. I feel like also, and this is more on a personal note, but I'm not super familiar with plants. But
I think plants really, the love for plants, I think usually starts when you're younger, and you do try to almost instinctively pick plants that you had a connection with when you were a kid. Like really funny, because wisteria, in my school, so I'm from Turkey, in Izmir. So my high school had this like part of the campus with a kind of really old building, the small tiny building, but that building was covered in wisteria. And I remember every May, that part of the campus would smell amazing. So I think that must be one of the reasons why I like always wanted wisteria. But it's really funny because in Turkey, wisteria, especially in Izmir, it's not that popular. In Istanbul, around the Princess Islands, there wisteria is a thing, but in Izmir, it's really not. The other thing, again, in the campus in my high school, there were these cyclamens, which I really loved, and it smelled really nice. So when I came here as well, it's really popular because it's a winter flower. So again, that was another thing that I really felt close to because, again, from my childhood, I know this plant and I really kind of liked seeing it in winter months. But yeah, the story that you had is really lovely in terms of, that fig tree. It's obviously fig is really big in Turkey as well. And it grows really quickly. There's a saying in Turkish around planting a fig tree in one's house, but it's a negative thing, like because it grows so quickly, so you don't have any other space left for you. But yeah, I love fig trees as well. It smells so nice.
Yeah, they're the most amazing trees.
Yeah.
I mean, I like them a lot.
Yeah.
See, that's really nice how they're oftentimes linked to memories, and the memory stays with us in some shape or another. So very nice.
Yeah, 100%. It's also interesting because, like, as I said, growing up in Izmir, there are certain kind of plants that don't grow here really, or they can't really thrive. So like in summertime, there were these like really big pine trees, and I love the smell of that. So again, that's whenever I go back home, that's a very distinct smell that I don't get to have here. So again, like plants create that emotional connection, I think, to a specific place. And I think that's why it's so important to create in our environments, in our communities, these kind of like visuals for us to actually kind of enjoy where we live.
Yeah, very nice. I like it a lot. Guerrilla gardening and taking community space has become more popular over the years. Also with Instagram, there's more visibility. But overall, not only on Instagram, but in the news as well. And so I've wondered if the past 5 years since you've been actively gardening, if you've seen a shift actually, that if there's more interest from people, if this has been positively, maybe also negatively.
Yes, I think so. I think there's definitely more interest, and I think there's a few reasons that I'm seeing. I think people do want to take more active role in things around them, because I think we did have I'm just talking from my experience, we did have a period of having the luxury of not getting involved in politics or not having a point of view on things. But I think at the moment, people want to contribute or have a point of view, even if it's a small way, that will make a difference in the world. So I think people do feel like they should take action in a way more than they did probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago. The other thing that's really, I think, raising the kind of awareness of things you can do in your community and guerrilla gardening, planting more trees, is also obviously increase awareness and acceptance of global climate change. So again, there's lots of rhetoric around climate change, denying it, not really respecting renewable energy, and all that kind of conversation that's currently happening, sadly. But I think that's not what most of the people think. I think people really still believe that we need to change the way we live or change the way we do things in order to have some sort of impact on changing the course of climate change. And every little helps, I think. I think we do need to do a lot more with trying to push corporations and governments and councils to invest a lot more in renewable energy, fighting climate change, because we are seeing the impact of it really quickly. But there's just so much that we can do in our own spaces as well to help that, planting trees, planting plants, creating space for wildlife. So I think that's why people are a lot more inclined to get involved these days.
Yeah, especially also if you bring it down, this is also what I said prior. If you bring it down to a more local level, people might feel less overwhelmed with the, with the doom that is hanging above their head, which I think is really nice because it gives people a new type of energy that they might not have, prior to, for instance, knowing guerrilla gardening. But this can come in many shapes and sizes. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think that's why getting involved in local community is so important, because you can actually make a difference. The fact that like nobody removed my guerrilla gardening projects, the fact that like I got positive response is partly like surprising almost to me, that you can do it. I think you can see the impact of what you did. You work with people, you see them. Whereas anything kind of national or global, you almost feel like the work that you're doing is going to abort. Even if it's a donation to some charity that's working on a global scale, there isn't enough transparency and there isn't enough, I think, impact that's visible to you. So that's why people are less likely to trust it. But anything local, because it impacts you a lot, then you are more likely to believe that you should be helping out.
Is that also the reason, or one of the reasons, why you decide to continue with guerrilla gardening or your projects?
Yeah. I think the more you see that actually people are enjoying it, it's a positive impact on the community, and the fact that, again, the fact that there's a possibility of bringing a bit more kind of wildlife around the tube station is really exciting. And I did, it does take a bit of an effort. So the first thing before I did the planter at the station was talking to the station employees. So I talked to the manager, because there were some like empty pots already there. So all I wanted to do was actually inside the station, shall I just fill these? And then I remember he was like, "Oh, don't worry, there are volunteers coming here. They'll come at some point. We can't really let you do anything here." I was like, fine. And I think most people, when they hear that, they will be like, "Okay, then, thank you." But basically, you need to be slightly more persistent if you want to change something. And to be honest, it's a bit of a sometimes luxury to be persistent, because you need to have the time, you need to have the resources. So not everyone, I think, can be as flexible to, okay, I'll do it anyway. I'll just build my own planter. I'll just bring it to the station. But if you create the space, so if I actually invite a few people while I'm doing this, I think even though they might not want to initiate it, I'm sure they'll be happy to join in. So I think it's about finding the right people that will maybe kind of initiate things, start things, lead things, and also find the kind of people who are interested to just be a part of it.
Yeah. No, I think that's also a very important point where, intersectionality is, of course, very important to also take into account in these type of initiatives, but it's also due to people like you who are persistent and who do use their energy and time and resources for this, that, other people might get inspired as well. So thank you as well for doing this.
Thank you.
For sure. Something we also saw and actually really liked is that you made a dog library recently.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm going to say this is also part of guerrilla gardening. But are there any other projects that you're working on and have in mind that you're excited about for the near future?
I mean, the dog library was really fun. I've again seen it at another park in South London in Chiswick. There was a version of a dog library where there was like a little box with lots of balls and sticks. And the story of the dog library is every morning when I take my dog to the park, he's a very naughty spaniel and he just goes into the bushes and just finds all the lost balls. So we had a bucket full of balls basically in the house because he always brings them back. He never wants to leave them there. So basically, when I saw this in another park, I was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to build, and put all these kind of extra balls in the house into that dog library. And it's, again, a kind of in a corner of this really big park, so it's not really obstructing the way. Hopefully it's gonna be there for a long time because I use like really good materials. So I think it's a positive impact on people's kind of daily dog walks and walks when they see it. Hopefully they're gonna be kind of cheered up with that. I want to do more, obviously, and the only reason why I did dog library without any plants in it is that park that we go to is a big kind of nature. It's almost like part of the forest, so it's better not to kind of plant stuff there because it has its own ecosystem. So I wouldn't do anything in a park in its own because there's lots of wildlife already there with a kind of certain ecosystem. But yeah, I do want to have other projects, especially in kind of inner city. As I said, I want to do the other side of Walthamstow Central Station, which is a huge project. I talked to a couple of like local gardeners to see if they'd like to get involved, but I think we'll have to wait until it's a lot warmer, probably like April, May time. Also, the days, as I said, is just so short at the moment. You can't really do much after work. And also that space is a lot bigger and a lot kind of in a worse shape. It will take a lot of time, and I just want to think about the logistics carefully so that we don't get like stopped by the kind of the station employees or anyone else while we're working. When I did the planter, I went there really early on purpose. I dropped it there. I cleaned around there. I think it was like before 7 a.m. So I just wanted to avoid people and crowds. There were only a few people that were like, oh, you built it, it's really cool. But there was, I think, one tube station employee, and he was like, what is this? What are you doing? And I had my I had my vest on, and I was, I'm just like doing guerrilla gardening. I built this, I'm just leaving it here. It's just a plant. And he was like, okay. So and they didn't like have it moved or anything. Anyway, so back to your question. Yes, I want to do the other side of the station, but I think it's a bigger project. So I need more people involved. I also need to think about logistics so that we can do it in a way that will not create disruption or too much attention.
A lot of it, like there's a lot of other aspects you have to think about before you can actually guerrilla garden. It's not super easy if I hear you talk about it.
There's scales. I think you can start really easy. As I said, you can even like just plant a lavender or a rosemary that are like more kind of drought tolerant, more kind of hardy plants. They're evergreens. You can just plant it under a tree pit, and if it has enough space, and just leave it. Or just plant some bulbs as well. Like you can just bulb some tulip bulbs or crocus, something like that. That's like really small scale in an area around you. So you don't have to have a DIY experience to build a massive planter for. But if you want to, of course, just go for it.
Next to my metro station, I'm gonna put a really nice flowers.
Amazing. Sandy pictures.
Yeah, honestly, you know what? Ideas are brewing.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing this. I was maybe also wondering, and you already touched upon this a little bit, but how would you suggest people to kind of involve neighbors and other community members to actively participate, or even inform them about guerrilla gardening? Because I think the tips you might give might also be applicable to not only guerrilla gardening, but just wider community participation in general.
Yeah, I mean, I have always benefited, I think, the current setup that exists where I live. So we have a WhatsApp channel for our street, so all the neighbors are part of the WhatsApp channel. There's a wider WhatsApp channel for the whole borough that we live in.
That's very rare, no?
Say it again?
That's very rare to have.
Yeah, it happens a lot in, I think, kind of zone 3. It's not suburbs, but the kind of the space between the center of the city and the suburbs, basically. I would say that's the type of place I am. It's very residential. I think when there is that kind of community already, you can take advantage of it. Again, before moving to this part of the city, I don't think I would kind of know my neighbors. I wouldn't like, when you're living in a flat as well, it's really hard. But in these kind of more residential areas, there's usually already a connection, and people do want to help each other out. So, as I said, even though I didn't get involved in it, the kind of upper part of the streets, they've done some amazing work with those kind of boxes that they built with plants. I think it's about trying to find those places where the community is already there, instead of trying to set something up yourself. It could be a WhatsApp channel, but also it could be a Facebook page. There are lots of like Facebook pages for different neighborhoods. There are lots of Instagram channels. Again, this is just speaking from London perspective. There are lots of like local groups. But if there isn't one, there's no reason why you can't start one. Again, just talking to people. I think I've been getting a lot better at talking to people who without reason almost, like just neighbors, just saying hi. Like 10 years ago, I would never do that, like talking to people at the supermarket. But like you see these people all the time now. I do. So I feel like I'm a lot more neighborly, I say these days. I don't know if it comes with age, but I think, I always feel like, also I think kind of younger people, they kind of shy away from building connections in communities a lot more. You can do stuff by yourself as well. As I said, like both of the two out of the 3 Guerrilla projects that I kind of worked on, I did by myself. So you could, but it's more fun when you work with other people. Also, it's easier because carrying that plant to the station was really annoying. So just talk to people, talk to your neighbors. I honestly think lots of people would love to get involved if someone on your street is starting something. So just don't be shy.
But in one sentence, what is guerrilla gardening?
That's a good question. Guerrilla gardening is let me write this. Wait.
This is gonna be, recorded forever. So
I need to find a good answer to this. Something like, probably, I think guerrilla gardening is taking environmental action for areas in your community that are neglected. So it's about making neglected areas in your community better through planting the right things. Is that a good answer?
Really nice, really nice. Good. I know I put you on the spot, but it's a really, really nice answer.
Okay. I think it's hard to describe it in just one sentence, because again, there's just lots of elements to it. And I think there might be different reasons why someone might be doing it. Personal reasons, community reasons, wildlife reasons. So I think it has lots of legs of why you should be doing it. But hopefully that was a good one-liner.
A last question is, what message would you like to put out there? It can be anything, just something you want to share to people listening.
I would like to remind ourselves that the shared spaces are shared spaces. We all own them, and we should be thinking about how we can make things better. I think more and more we are seeing that action needs to be coming from bottom up. It's these things we can't really accept from top down. So the more connected we are with our local communities, the more in touch with them, the better it's going to be. And I think guerrilla gardening is just one part of it, but just generally making life better, everyday life better for everyone. Just being slightly more mindful of, for example, the bins that we have in this neighborhood. They get collected once a week, and then they're always like on the pavements, and it blocks the way for people with buggies or people who are on wheelchairs. So what can you do to just kind of make that process faster? Or there's so many dogs around here, so the moment you litter and have rubbish on the floor, on the ground, the dogs are gonna just take it and eat it. So what can you do about it? Those kind of like little actions, I think sometimes people need to be reminded that this space is all our space, so you need to show ownership of the community space, and you can't expect other people to do it for you. That would be my... I feel like this ended on a negative note. Maybe from a more positive note, again, in the same sentiment, I think, again, this is a shared space, and I think we're on a very good trajectory in terms of taking action around climate change and making the cities, which is really my passion, making urban environments, cities greener. And I feel like a lot more people are more concerned around making this happen. So my call to people, the second call to people, would be around getting involved. So please plant trees, please think about the wildlife in the city, because there's a lot of wildlife in the city already, and try to make it better for our next generations.
Thank you. I think the people that will listen to this episode are getting involved already by listening to this. So thank you. But indeed, get up, take action, plant some flowers, some bulbs, whatever. It can be very small. And talk to people.
Talk to people.
People.
Yeah. More talking to people, 100%. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hayati. I really enjoyed our conversation.
I really enjoyed it too. It was really pleasant. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to Hayati for joining us on the podcast. Also, a big thank you to Mila, who helped realize this episode. And thanks to you for listening to it. I hope this conversation left you with enthusiasm. Enthusiasm to take on gardening, to talk to your neighbors, or to think about different ways on how to engage with ecology. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this episode, is that no step is too small, and that individual action becomes even stronger when you do it with a community. If you want to engage more with this topic, we left a list of suggestions, ranging from books, documentaries, videos, articles, and so on, to get you familiar with guerrilla gardening. Feel free to also check out our other episodes. If you liked this episode, make sure to also listen to our other ones, and follow us on Instagram for more information on new topics and speakers.
Thank you for listening to the WAVE podcast. We are Voices of Ecology. If you're inspired to act, share and learn, connect with us, then follow us on Instagram at WaveProjectEU and share the episode with another person today. Every bit keeps the wave moving forward.